places. I don't think we have TikTok covered yet, but
Oh my goodness. TikTok is a whole life itself.
in the book world, yeah. I guess I'm like TikTok over on Amazon buying all the books. My husband's like, "Oh, all your books came today." I'm like, "Shh, it's okay. We don't talk about that." Awesome. Well, we are live. Hey, Amazon, welcome back. Today I am live with Bella Matthews. She is a author, one of my favorite authors, and I have just fallen in love with all of her books. I love every single one of her books, even more than the rest. I tell her that every time because I always think, okay, there's no way she can write an even better book. She does it every time, knocks it out of the park. And not only does she write the most amazing books, she is one of the most encouraging authors in the author community and very generous with her time and tips and advice with newbie authors like myself. So thank you for that, always pouring into your community and your fellow authors. That's not gone unnoticed. And I know a lot of people just speak so highly of you because you're so amazing. So
Thank you so much.
well, welcome. Let's talk about your new duets. So you have those on hand. And
I do.
guys, I binge read these this past weekend on my Kindle. My Kindle's laying over there. And
Oh yeah.
I just was sitting out by the pool just reading and reading. My husband's like, "Are you going to do something today?" I'm like, "Shh, no, I'm reading." I'm reading.
No, I'm definitely getting a lot of like people, not hate mail, but like, hey, you left me on a cliffhanger. When is book two? And I'm like, well, book two is September 7th. So it's only 2 weeks,
Oh,
but now we're not even 2 weeks.
yes, it is coming up. It'll be here before you know it. But this will give
Mhm.
people time today. This is like the perfect live, I feel like. The perfect live to read the first one, really soak that one in. And I like to kind of marinate with a book and then go into the next one. So perfect timing. But there's also some other books that we can dig into if you don't want to start the duet until the next one comes out. So if you're like me, you're like, what's a duet? Can you explain that a little?
Sure. So, a duet is two books. Book one typically ends on a cliffhanger, and you get the next piece of the puzzle in book two, so to speak. So that's how I did it. Book one ends on a massive, to quote some of the reviews, a rip your heart out cliffhanger, and book two picks up exactly where book one lets
Yeah.
off. So you're going to get your answers pretty quickly, but yeah, there's a lot of angst.
A lot of angst. But as in good faith with the happily ever after, which you always provide with your books, you'll take us on a roller coaster, but you'll always come through at the end with putting the pieces back together, which is real life. So love that
Thank you.
about all of your books. You do write some super angsty, just huge character driven books where the characters are so developed that sometimes I really forget that this is just a book. I have on my cart all the Croydon Hills stickers, and it's like that's a real place in my head.
It is, I swear. I know. It's not, but in my head it is
Yeah.
too. And the characters have stuck with me because all of my books are complete standalones, but they're interconnected standalones. So a lot of my characters have been introduced previously by the time I've gotten to write their books. Especially for this duet, I introduced both of the characters in this duet 2 years ago in book one, and they've been weaved in and out throughout the previous books. Again, complete standalone. You do not have to have read any of the previous ones to read it, and a lot of the reviewers make sure to point that out too. They were fine picking it up.
Yeah.
But I cried my eyes out writing book one because I knew what I was doing to these characters that I've loved for 2 years. I know, it's kind of pathetic, but
No, I was like a little sad when I was reading for in some parts. Sorry if you hear my dog barking. I'm not sure what
no,
she's
that's
barking
fine.
at. She's out.
God forbid that what do you call it? If somebody comes to my house to
Yeah.
deliver something, you're going to hear my dog a lot louder.
Yeah, it's usually Amazon delivering. It's fine. It's just more books. It's fine.
Exactly.
It's fine. So, when you first started writing this duet, I mean, that had to have been heavy for you. First of all, I grew up as a military brat, so I loved all the military aspects of this and how you wove such hard topics in such a loving and compassionate way. That had to have been hard to write. How was that for you?
It was hard, but it was fun. I'm a big researcher. An author friend of mine laughs at me because I do so much research that when she reads through it, she's like, babe, nobody's going to understand what this term means. You know it, but nobody else is going to understand. You need to like change this, update this, do something with this. So, so yeah, there's that. But it was hard to go. I knew this was going to be a heavy book, but I knew I was going to, it's still fun. And I sprinkled some fun in there, and I love to sprinkle funny in, but I knew it was going to be it, it was going to be a little different than what I typically write. And I had to kind of get in the right mindset to do that. I had to kind of prep myself. This was not like a light sports romance.
This was very in depth, and like I said, I had to keep reminding myself, this is just a book. This is a made up book. But it wasn't written like that. Hey, Stephanie, thanks for watching. It was written so in depth that as I followed along, I mean, I was like lucky. Thank you so much, by the way, for trusting me to read book 2 and letting me have that, because I was into it. Hey, Susan. And so I was lucky I got to power through both and just like, get the answers and stuff. But such a good, just so good, so good. And I always say that every book you write, I love the next one more and more. So
Thank you.
I thought we'd talk about your first 4, which I'm sure every author just loves to go back to their first books. I even have my little footballs that sit on the shelf with them.
Oh, I love it. My King's footballs.
I know my kids like to play with them. And I'm like, put them back when you're done. They go on my trophy shelf.
My footballs, and where's my chapstick? I usually have, so when I did my very first signing last year, we had to get swag for the signing, and my chapstick is Vanilla Mint, and I have a box of it in here that I still have. I put it in.
I'm sending you one too.
Good. I love my chapsticks. Everybody comes in the house. I have 3 kids, a husband. Whenever, they need a chapstick, they just walk in and take it. And I'm like, oh, my kids are all boys. So here they are with their pretty pink chapstick in school. I have to laugh every time. I'm like, that's it, babe. You go for that.
That's awesome. Support.
Yeah.
So how has your writing career evolved since your very, very first book, All In?
Oh my goodness. It has just completely, I don't even know, it's exploded. It's when I wrote that very first book, it was lockdown. It was our first lockdown from COVID.
Yeah.
And I had a broken computer, and I got a new computer, and I swear the day I set the computer up, I was like, you know what? I'd been a bookstagrammer for years. I'd reviewed for years. I'd been on street teams and art teams and loved that. And I kind of thought, I've had this story in my head for a while. Let me see. I just had gotten Microsoft Word on the new computer. I'm like, let me see what happens. And that was July. And by September, I was reaching out to a developmental editor. I was like, can you help me? Because I have the basics. I'm not sure what I'm doing. And it just took off from there. That little book had like a life of its own. And by the end of the year, I was writing book 2, and I had no intention. I remember, and I will always go back to a friend of mine, Waverly Alexander, who I had the luck of hooking up with that year previously. She's an author, and I was like, Waves, can you tell me what I do now? Because I've got this book written, and I don't have any idea what I'm supposed to do. And she was so gracious, and that's why I like to help newbie authors when I can, because if it had not been for her help, I would have had no idea what I was doing. None. So
that sounds very familiar on my end.
Yes.
Because
it was funny, because when we talked, that was like almost a year to the day from when I had spoken with the previous year.
We went back to that time where I reached out to you and was like, yes, I'm writing a book. I'm not really sure what I'm doing. And you're like, you need a developmental editor. I'm like, what is that?
Right. That was what I had said. And she was like, just have somebody read it through. That I think she had actually said to me, you need somebody that's going to rip it apart so that you can make it better. It's your first book. You're not going to know what you're doing. And I was like, oh my gosh, that sounds perfect. Give me somebody to rip it apart. And that was how All In was born.
That is amazing. So then you went on to write three more in that series, which is the baby books of the big series, which you don't have to read them in order. Like you said, they're standalones, but this would be a great starting point right now if you're like me, where you want to go back and binge a whole series. You want to read everything an author writes. That's me. I became
Yeah,
obsessed. I'm like, well, now I need
me
to read
too.
everything. Now I need to own
Mhm.
everything. They all need to sit on my shelf where I can see them.
Mhm.
And so you have your first series, which are beautiful. Bella does such a good job with her marketing too. She has okay. I always joke that when she signed them, she even did like a matching pen for each one. And
Oh
I noticed
yeah,
it. I was like, oh my gosh! So the pink has pink,
yeah.
green has green, and I'm like, I wonder if she did that on purpose.
I totally did. I'm crazy like that. I really,
I
I'm a
appreciated
little
it.
crazy.
I was the one that was like, yes, I appreciate all of this. And
I always remember, where is it? Rise of the King. When you got Rise of the King, I'll never forget. You went, oh my God, there's cupcakes. Where is it?
yes, oh, the
Chapter
detail.
one starts with a cupcake, and you were like, "That's the greatest thing ever." There's
I
cupcakes.
know. I was, and then you had the blue here. And, I mean,
Uh-huh.
your details are so intense. I love you have a playlist in the front. I'm a sucker
Yeah,
for a playlist. Like I want to hear all the songs that go with it. I want to know
me too.
what's going on when you're doing this. And so yeah, each chapter
Yeah.
has a cupcake. And oh my gosh, and I love Sam has a
Right.
gun.
That one's a mafia book. That's not a sports romance.
We say that like it's. And then you have green on this one, of course. I'm telling you, the
Yeah.
details are so so good. Another playlist, and then she has the high heel.
Yeah.
And then of course I'm like obsessed, ready for the next book. I'm like, well, ready for that today.
Well, a little over a week. Next Wednesday, book 2 releases.
In the
Yep.
gloves.
Yep.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
So that's coming. So you have your. Oh my gosh, I love the King series. These covers are so
Oh,
good
thank
too.
you.
Look at
Thank you.
this. I mean, you just do all your marketing and branding, and your books are just tied up tight. I mean, you read them and they flow. You can definitely tell that. I mean, they're so good.
I appreciate that tremendously.
I don't even know which one's my favorite because it's probably going to be your next one. I don't know. It's just going, right?
Thank you. I
So
have a
I
hard time picking favorites, but this duet right now, at least, this duet is my favorite by far.
I did put your other book for pre-order up, and I'm very selfishly going to ask you to tell me about that.
Oh, Caged
Yes.
or the second? Okay, so
So I have
Caged is
Cage
Hudson
pulled up.
Kingston's.
Yeah.
Okay, that is Hudson Kingston's story. So that is the next Kingston story. Only we split that series because I do know that sometimes readers don't like it when a series gets too long. So the
It might
first
seem
3 books are.
overwhelming. Yeah.
Yes. And while they can all be read as a standalone, I know I like to go in and read from the start so I can meet everybody as it happens.
Yeah.
But the first 3 books that you just showed in The Restless Kings are they're a little different than the next 4 books in the Kingston series are going to be. So we split the series. They were the Restless Kings. Now the next 4 are the Defiant Kings. So they'll be a little different. And Hudson's book is going to be the first. He is an MMA fighter. And that is all I can tell you about that book because I have not announced anything else. But I did just spend, I don't know, probably 6 hours the other night on the phone with my PA, who I refer to as my momager, because I swear she has my life planned out for me. And
Is
we
this
were
Brianna?
plotting. So this is Brianna. Yes, 1,000%.
Yeah, when I talk to her, she's like, I basically tell authors what to do, and I'm like, I need that.
Uh-huh. Yes, it's fabulous. We joke around all the time because I'm old enough to be her mom, but she runs my life for me. 1,000%. She even has like a running doc of names that I've used in books. So when I come up with a new name, she's like, you can't use that. It sounds too much like this, and this, because I tend to use the same letters. She's like, no more of this letter. But I kind of need that sometimes because life just gets crazy. And until Thursday, I've basically worked 2 full-time jobs because I would not ever call my author career a part-time job this past year. I've definitely treated it as a full-time job and put in 40
Absolutely.
hours. But I have maintained my full-time job as well. My last day with that company is Wednesday. So
Oh,
until Thursday, I've been juggling both of them and she's been juggling me, basically.
You're gonna come down off of this like rush and just be like, oh, I need a
Need to
break for
sleep.
a little bit. Yeah, you need like a
Yeah.
break for a little bit and then you'll be ready to go again.
Yes. I need some sleep. I need some good books to read. Um, I'm ready to start writing the next book, but in the meantime, I had a bonus epilogue that is going to be available at the end of book 2 in the duet, at the end of Changing the Game, not changing the game, ending the game. There's going to be a link for a free bonus epilogue, so that is written and will be going to my my line editor today. And then I'm in an anthology in October, Hell Hath No Fury, and that is a charity anthology that benefits women's reproductive rights. And I'm just about done my anthology short, so I can breathe after that.
Yay!
It's like there's no, what do they say? No rest for the weary or
No
the
rest
wicked
for
or
the
something.
wicked. I know.
Yeah,
I have an assistant too, a PA, who does the same thing. I'll be like, we're going to do this. And she's like, no, we're not.
right.
No, we're not.
1,000%.
She's like, absolutely not. And I'm like, okay. We need that. We all need a Shauna and a Brianna in our life to say, no,
1,000%.
no, Nixon.
Well, I lucked out at this point. I have 2 amazing assistants. We've added Heather to the team as well. She just proofed the audio for Changing the Game. So we're hoping that's available in about 2 weeks. I'm so excited. She said it was fantastic. They're my absolute favorite narrators. So I'm just so incredibly excited for that.
Yes. And
but yay for a whole team.
Well, and I believe that last time we talked about how 2022 was the year of audio for you.
Yes, it definitely was. This is my 4th and 5th audiobooks for the year with this duet. And for the duet, it's Jacob Morgan and Savannah Peachwood. So I've been incredibly lucky to get to work with some of my absolute favorite narrators. I had Sebastian York and Summer Morton do Fallen King, and I had Joe Arden and Lucy Rivers, and I had Jason Clark and Erin Mallon. I mean, these are narrators that I one-click, so to get the opportunity to work with them was like mind-blowing. I mean, really, when they said yes, I was just like, oh my God, they said yes to me. Like, I'm a nobody. They said yes. Woo!
I think at this point, I've read everything you've written except for anything that hasn't come out yet. And it doesn't surprise me at all that they would be a one-click yes for you as well, because your books are so top-notch. I feel like they're those books that are not talked about enough, that once you know, and you're like, yeah, bought all the books, own them all, own the chapstick, need some more chapstick, I want everything. You put out a grocery list, we want it. You put out, you put out something, it's top quality, and people know that because from the get-go, your books have had that standard of excellence. And so, yeah, of course they want to work with you. They're like, yeah.
It's been exciting. It's been a year, but it was definitely the year of audio. So I can't, it's funny because I can't listen to my own books on audio.
Oh, I can never.
It's like, I have this freaky mental thing. Like, I can listen to the very beginning and I always get super excited when I hear, Changing the Game, written by Bella Matthews, in this voice that I've listened to for years for someone else. And then I very nicely hand it off to my PA to proof it, because I don't want to proof it myself, because I think I would just pick out every single word that I wanted to write differently. Because no matter how many times you go through it, I feel like you're going to change something every time. So I let her do that. And I just enjoy the feedback she gives me.
Well, that's handy too. I feel like that's how, it's so nice to just have a PA that can just take that off your plate, that understands you, understands your brand, understands how that all works. And this duet has been really fun. So how has this duet stretched you as an author? How has it...
Tremendously. It's stretched me. I've never had to stay in somebody's mind for so long before. In total, the duets, I think, around 150,000 words. Sounds right? 150, 160, something like that. And I've never stayed with one character or having them be the main focus for that long before. So that by itself was a stretch. Now, I knew exactly what was going to happen in book 1 for a very long time. There are very few things that I changed as I was writing it. And I'm not in general a really detailed plotter. I'm a little bit more of a pantser where I tend to hit bullet points and then I write as I go and I get inspired from what I've already written. But I had a good feel for this one. Honestly, at the very end of All In, I knew what I wanted for Cooper's book to be. And over the course of the last 2 years, I've kind of curated that a bit. But what book 2 ended up being was completely different from what I had anticipated it was going to be. So to say that it stretched me was like, it was insane. It was a race to get it done, to get it done on time for my narrators, for my editors. It was also harder because book 1 encompasses a long frame of time. Usually my books will be over weeks or over a month or two. And I had actually said after I wrote Broken King, there's a pregnancy in Broken King and it had to encompass X amount of months. And I didn't care for writing a story that encompassed that many months. And then I turned around and wrote this one and it encompasses years. So I was like, holy moly, how do I do this? How do I do this so it doesn't feel like it's dragging? I wanted to make sure that I kept everything tight but moving. And I wanted to make sure I really evoked as much emotion out of the reader as I could.
Oh, well, you
Not
did that.
Oh my gosh. My most favorite review, somebody wrote, Bella, who hurt you?
Who did this to you? I want names.
Right. It was fantastic. It was the best review I've ever gotten because it was just like so true. I loved it so much. That was my whole goal with this book, was to evoke feelings on a different level than I ever had before. And not that we don't want people to feel with every book we read, but I just felt like this one was such an emotional roller coaster and I wanted to make sure I was taking it on and really getting that.
Well, if you guys read the Fallen King series, you know kind of what happens to Coop because it goes back a little in time, which was kind of cool to see it from that angle. Which is a true author skill set to do that, by the way, because you did that. I'm one of those people that I catch everything. I usually don't say anything because it's just like, well, it's okay. I get it. But I catch everything. So every little Easter egg I remember. And because I have a visual memory, like if I see something, hear something, I remember it. And so I remember reading about him in the previous books and then going back and seeing this angle was cool. And then it was almost a mystery in some ways going into it that, like you said, had so much depth that another author I think that nails similar is Lucy Score, Things We Never Got Over. And ironically, those books are 150,000 words, but you broke yours into 2 chunks that is just less, I was like easily to read, not be overwhelmed, not that hers were, but just that whole dynamic of it was such a good roller coaster of perfection. And I think looking at this as your 8th and 9th book, right? And seeing how you did that, it looks effortlessly on our end, but I'm sure you were like, that was not effortlessly. That was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, right? Oh, I hope you didn't freeze. Are you still there? Well, if you are, just pop back in. We'll keep going. But you're, yep, you can pop back in. Okay, did that work? Hang on.
Can you? Oh, there we go. Sorry about that.
That's okay. I can see you. I take the other one off. Okay, so that works. So I'm sure it looked effortlessly to us that you wrote these books, but I'm sure you're like, I know.
Oh no.
Blood, sweat, and tears went into this.
Hardest books I've ever written. By far the hardest books I've ever written.
I mean, there's so much detail to remember in these. They're so just. It was like watching a Netflix series. You know, something that you're like. You're just plugged in. I can't even tell you guys, other than I'm sorry, start digging in, start reading. Because
well, thank you very much. Yes, please. It's on Kindle Unlimited. If you've got Kindle Unlimited, you can read this sucker for, on your Kindle Unlimited.
Yes,
we're hoping it's out in audio in 2 weeks.
So if you're a Kindle Unlimited fan, definitely do that. I mean, it's so great to be able to really dig into these books and power through. So I highly recommend it. Of course, someone's mowing outside my window.
Always.
We're trying to talk about books, sir.
I can't hear it if it makes you feel better.
Okay, good. I hope so.
We're
But
good.
let's talk about some other books that we're talking about, fall anticipated books. So we have something that you collaborated on, my book baby that I worked on with Jen Prost. This was a little labor of love. So one of the things I always ask our authors on the show, which Bella's been a repeat visitor because I love her books so much. I always ask our authors, what books are you loving, or what advice would you have for an aspiring writer? And this is our book that comes out in October. I hope you can see it.
I haven't seen the cover yet.
Oh, you haven't
Oh,
seen it?
exciting. No.
It's so good.
Oh, that's
Hang Lee
exciting.
did our cover. She does such a good job. I
Oh,
know her.
you're so lucky. I've reached out to her since she had a baby and she hasn't been able to squeeze me in yet.
I know, same here. I was like, so, and she's like, I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
Jen Prost is amazing, and she had an in with her, and she's like, yeah, she'll do it. And I'm like,
Right.
I
Exactly.
realized what a stinking gift that is for sure. So that is just a labor of love. I think we ended up with 52 amazing authors, yourself included, that included their what they wish they'd known going into writing. And as a reader reading these, even the editor came back and was like, these are really good. These are really fantastic, little blurbs of what they wish they'd known, what they wish they'd known going into this. It's always interesting to see the author's side. It's such a different world.
Yes.
And just it's a work of love, and we're so excited. So anyway, that's up for pre-order, and that is going to be out October 18th. And then while we've got Jen up on the screen, I'm going to talk about her newest book. This comes out next month. She has a new book coming out, and so that looks like a Hang Lee cover, I think. I could be wrong, but she's got like a secret in with her, so that's kind of fun.
That's awesome.
So that's some good ones coming up. And then let's see, what else do we have here? It's just a great book for reading right now. It's a great time.
It is. It
Uh,
definitely is.
have you ever read anything? I know when you get back into the reading sphere, one of my favorites is Laura Pavlov, and she writes some really angsty, just really good series. This Honey Mountain series of hers is my favorite, and I just ordered her newest book, Make You Mine. I think they're also on Kindle Unlimited. Let me double check here. But she is also, yes, she is on Kindle Unlimited, so I cannot wait for her newest one coming. But
awesome.
What are your plans to read? What are you going to read?
So one of my author friends, Hannah McBride, is writing a trilogy, and the final book in the trilogy is coming out. Mad Love. I had to think about it. It was Mad World, Mad as Hell, and then the third book is Mad Love, and that's coming out in early October. And I can't wait for that. And we've shared some characters over the past couple months, so we might actually do a little bit of a co-write together at some point. We'll see. But I absolutely love the series. I cannot wait for the third book in that series to come out.
And what did you say her name was?
Hannah McBride. I adore her, and the series is insane in the best possible way. That is my favorite way to describe it. I can't use the cuss word that I usually use.
These are good. These covers are phenomenal.
The series is fabulous. I love it. Cannot wait for the third one to come out. I also, over the summer, my friends recommended Jay Bray, the Ties That Bind series, I believe it's called. The Bonds That Tie. The Bonds That Tie, I think. Freaking fantastic series. And the final book, I think, in that comes out, I want to say the end of September. And I'm really looking forward to that one too. Like, I was on vacation and was binging it at night. I should have probably been writing Cooper, but I wasn't. Instead, I couldn't put these books down. And I just would hit the end and grab the next one immediately. I was captured, couldn't stop, read them all week. I think I read 4 or 5 books in a week. I haven't done that in years at this point. It was fantastic. It was so page turning. It was great.
Well, I'm going to add those to my list as well. Okay. So that's how I felt when I was reading Changing the Game. I started to get really like nervous. I was like, well, I have to reach out to her right now, so maybe she'll send me number two.
Oh yeah. Oh
And
heck yeah. I just had it formatted. It was perfect
I was
timing.
on, I think I was like 27% done with the first one. And I was like, I'm gonna need the next one. Um, I can't handle this. I need to make sure I got this. And then for some reason, it was like the stars were not aligning for me, and I could not get. I don't know why it wasn't downloading correctly. Normally that doesn't happen, but I was like, really? I mean, I was really working for this book. I was like, I gotta figure this out. Like, I Googled something and did something else. I don't know why it wasn't working, but anyway, I ended up getting it. And when it finally downloaded, I was like, oh, thank God.
That's so
So
funny.
so to put it bluntly, friends watching, I read from Saturday morning to now, actually last night, 150,000 words because you said that's what your duet is. And I'm not mad about it. I want to go back and read them again because I'm sure I missed something. Now I kind of want the Audible on both of them.
Oh,
I
I
kind of want to get
just
the Audible.
their voices are perfect. I read little snippets as I was uploading, or listened to little snippets as I was
Yeah.
uploading, and I had their voices in my head while I was writing it because I knew who was going to narrate, and they're such
Yeah.
professionals. They're amazing. I love them.
They are so good. I mean, Audible is a game changer for sure. I've been digging into Audible books. I've been listening to all the T.L. Swan books, the Stopover, and those are really
Mhm.
good too. So I think these are going to be phenomenal on Audible for sure. And so all your others are available, right?
They are. Well, so the Kings of Croydon Hills is going to be available. The Restless Kings are. Rise of the King, Broken King, Fallen King are all available right now. All In is also available right now. However, the rest of the Kings of Croydon Hills, I swear I'm never going to use the word king again in anything. The Kings of Croydon Hills, the other three are going to be available over the next few months. More Than a Game comes out September 6th on audio. It's obviously available in ebook and paperback. Always Earned comes out at the end of September on audio. And Under Pressure, I believe, is the first weekend in or first week in November. I think it's the first Tuesday in November. So we're excited about that. That's through Tantor.
So going back to where you said, I'm never using the word king again. That's actually one of my favorite lines from your book. I can't remember which one because I've, read them all, but maybe Scarlet, where she says, "Don't call me a princess, I'm a king," or something. I don't know. There was this power line that I was like, "Oh."
The sad thing is, I could tell you word for word. It's king, not princess. A princess needs to be saved. A king can save themselves.
Exactly, that
I
was it. And I was like
yeah.
highlighting on my Kindle.
I love strong women. I love to
Yeah.
write strong women. And I think Scarlet was my strongest, although Amelia probably comes a close second. So Scarlet is Broken King, Amelia's Rise of the King. But I like strong women. I like to write them. I like to read them. I like to know them in real life. And she was just so much fun to write in that regard. I loved making her this woman that was just in charge of her own world. And, she was like, oh no, honey, I don't need anybody to save me. I can take care of that. That was just so much fun.
Oh, that line was like, ooh. I mean, there's
Well,
just no character to be seen, except for maybe Axel. We don't like him. He's like Bruno. We don't talk about Bruno.
we don't talk about Bruno.
He's canceled.
Yeah.
He's canceled. But I love how your female characters are feminine but strong. I loved the angle of her lingerie company with Karis. I mean, I just love that angle, and I loved all the details and everything you described. I was like, oh, now I want to go shopping.
Pinterest. Pinterest is a beautiful thing. I would come up with ideas from Pinterest all the time for that.
I was,
Whenever I need to describe a gorgeous dress or something like that, I love to go to Pinterest to get my ideas, and I'll throw them on my Pinterest board.
love that. Are they public?
No, they're not public until after the book's been released. So
Okay.
for the duet, they're not public yet. But after the book's released, I always make them public.
Oh, I love that. That's a great idea. I
Yeah.
always am curious to see what the author was envisioning and if it matches to what I was envisioning. And I'm always hesitant about books that have people on the cover because I'm always like, well, sometimes they don't look how I thought they were going to look. But your covers nail it.
Oh,
I mean,
thank you
nail
so
it.
much.
So,
Man, we stress over those models.
oh, like I said, you cross every T and dot every I. There is no halfway phoning it in on any of your marketing and books. They're
Thank you.
always, I mean, that's something to be said because you've had so much going on with working two jobs and your family and all the things you have going on, and you still show up with a standard of excellence that does not lower ever.
Well, thank you.
So that
My
is,
advice to new authors: surround yourself with a great team, because that so many, and you know this because you are about to publish your first book, so you've experienced this firsthand. So many things we do as authors are so um what the heck is the word, like, it's solitude, like it's just you, it's
yeah.
you. There are so many of the important things you do no one else can help you with. Surround yourself with a phenomenal team, because everything that they can help you with, you want them to help you with.
Yeah.
I work with Social Butterfly PR. They're absolutely amazing. Sarah Ferguson is a freaking lifesaver. Like I mentioned earlier, I now have two PAs. They're incredible. Like I have to surround myself with a great team, because I know I can't do it all myself working two jobs, but I'm not going to be able to do it all myself when I'm just working one either. My team is fantastic. Like it's just such an individual thing to do when you write, but there are so many ways you can really rely on a great team around you that can help support you and help guide you. And oh my gosh, like they just make all the difference in the world.
What do you think life will be like for you when you're writing and not working the other job?
I can't wait. Here's the honest to goodness truth. It really has been for an entire year now. I have worked 80 hours a week. I do not recommend it to anyone,
And
but
then
I was
not
determined.
recommend.
No, I do not recommend it. Not at all. But I was determined that I wanted to be able to make this commitment, and I wanted to write full time. And I knew that to do that, I needed to get myself to a level where I would feel comfortable giving up the job that I have loved for 10 years, that has helped support my family and my household. And, and I wasn't going to be able to get to that point if I only wrote part time. So I knew I needed to make the commitment. So really, it's just going to be that I actually get some nights off, and maybe I'll actually get to see some soccer this year. Or, I have three boys. One of them plays football, one of them plays soccer on two different soccer teams, and I might have seen half of all their games last year because they knew mom had to miss, mom had to work. But the goal was mom's going to miss this year so that mom doesn't have to miss next year. You know what I mean? Or even this summer, I can't tell you how many times my husband and my kids did something on the weekends without me because I was in these four walls in my office working. So I don't think that my days will change that much, like my weekdays, because it's just going to be, I'll still be working, but I'm hoping that it means that I get to have a little bit more of a life at night and on the weekends. Like I actually sat down last night. We had friends over with their kids, and we did a big dinner, and it was like, holy moly, that was the first time we'd all gotten together because of my schedule all summer, I think. And this is like our very best friends in the world. And like we talk all the time, but we hadn't actually gotten the families together in months because I couldn't. So now I'm like, woohoo, party time.
What do you think? What do your kids think about your books and your writing?
My kids love it. My kids just think it's the coolest thing in the world. My boys always joke around that they want to be on the covers one day, which I tell them no, they absolutely cannot.
Absolutely
My
not.
youngest wants to know when we're going to name a character after him. And, here I am thinking, and obviously I will never say this to an 11-year-old, but in the back of my mind, I'm like, I don't know that mommy can name a character after you and then write a steamy scene. Like, no, no.
I did
The
put my
thing,
son in my book. He's a barista.
oh, that's awesome. I
He's in
love
there.
it.
He's not gonna read it. He's not allowed, but I did tell him he was in there.
Yeah. Well, so here's been the interesting thing. I'm on TikTok, and you market your books on TikTok, you do all sorts of fun things. And I released Under Pressure last September, and Under Pressure had a really filthy line that TikTok loved, that I used in a TikTok. And one day I picked up my son and his best friend from football, and I've known the best friend since he was 2 years old. They're almost 16. And he got in the car and he said, "So, saw you on TikTok today." I was like, "Oh my God." And he goes, "Yeah, the whole football team's going to tease Matt for the rest of the year over this because it was, it was worship me later, blank me now," was the quote on TikTok. Only it wasn't blank. And my face was in it and everything. And yeah. So my freshman at that point in high school got teased the whole football season for, mom on TikTok. I'm pretty sure the whole local football team followed me just to tease the heck out of him.
Oh my gosh, that
So,
poor kid.
but they still love it. He's just like, "Yeah, whatever. It's mom's job."
I
Like, they
know.
think it's me.
I mean, if you think about it, we read our moms, aunts, and grandma's books when we were younger. And imagine their kids. Like, I'm trying to think of like someone like Nora Roberts, okay?
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think of someone I would have read my mom's books back then. There wasn't as many authors back then, and they weren't as open door.
Right.
And I'm sure her kids got merciful They were like, your mom writes this. And, it just is what it is. This is the world we live in. I mean, It is what it is. It's romance. And I just explained to my daughter, she's like, "Can I read your book?" I'm like, "Absolutely not."
Right.
No. And she's like, "Why not?" And I'm like, "When you're older." She goes, "But maybe you could just take those pages out or tape them together." I'm like, no.
That's my best friend's oldest daughter. She's the same age as my oldest son, so she's going into her sophomore year of high school. She just read Colleen Hoover for the first time. She loved it, and she was like, "So can I read?" And my best friend was like, "Absolutely not. You cannot touch those books." Like, and we were joking around about it last night. I'm like, "Okay, so we're going to set her up with a real unrealistic expectation of men if she reads these books, because
they'll never measure up."
No,
I don't know, though.
God, no.
My husband is my real life, like, book boyfriend. Like,
oh yeah, me too.
I mean, sometimes, okay, so I get a lot of messages from people that know me on, like, YouTube or something, and they're like, "So, do your books have steamy scenes? Because if they have steamy scenes, I don't really want to read that. I don't feel comfortable." I'm like, "Oh, absolutely, you should skip these."
Oh, I agree.
And they're like, "Oh." And I'm like, "Absolutely, skip them." And they're like, "Well, why?" And I'm like, "Well, it's just who I am. It's what I like to read. It's a natural, normal part of life. And if it's not for you, that's totally cool. But that's where we're at." And, a lot of women are like, "I just don't think this is realistic." And I'm like, "Which part? Because it kind of is."
Right.
You might be doing it wrong.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I have that conversation sometimes unapologetically because that's part of why I like to write, because I like to read romance, and I think that it can be realistic sometimes, and we should have high standards for our relationships, and I don't know. That's just what I think anyway.
No, I agree. So, I've always told my husband there's a piece of him in every hero that I've written.
Yeah.
And there's a piece of his ridiculous phone text message group with his college fraternity brothers, and he played football in college too. So there's like the fraternity guys and the football guys, and they're all in one text. And the obscene things that my guys text each other, yeah. Oh, some of it's been said before in real life.
Your text messages are hilarious. I always laugh at them.
They're the inspiration.
They're banter.
And they like to torture my husband over that too. They always, whenever I release a new book, one of his friends will Photoshop my husband's face onto the cover and send it to the group text. And it's horrific every time, but they do it every single time. They're like, "Oh, Bella released a new book," and here's the message in the text chain every single time. And it's my husband's face on there.
That's the best I've heard all day.
Yeah. Oh,
That's awesome. Another book that I think you should add to your list is this one.
Oh, that's on my to be read.
So
I totally on my TBR.
I can't show you this picture that she sent me with it because it's so. Well, I can show you part. No, I can't show it. Amazon will be like, "Yeah, no." Let's just say
I've got some of those now too.
After, I'll set that aside so I can remember to show you. But she sent a playlist too. And I love a little handwritten note. But this one is like the Princess Diaries, X-rated. And
Oh yeah, that sounds good.
and I say the same thing about Megan Quinn. I'm like, how did this happen to you? Like, where did these funny things come from that you say? It's so funny. Oh, another book that takes place in New England, and also she's hilarious in real life, is Sarah Goodman Confino. She's a riot. Okay, first of all, this lady, we text, like, we Instagram in real life, and she is about our age, so she knows all the 80s and 90s good movies, and we speak in movie quotes to each other all the time. Like, I'll just send her like a one-liner from a movie, and then she'll kick it back with something else from that movie, and I'm like, this is why I love this lady. And so I sent her liners from that movie from '89, Troop Beverly Hills, and she sent back from that one. And then we were doing Billy Madison, and
Oh God.
I mean, I've never met someone so quick-witted that gets it, and she's hilarious. But anyway, her writing is like that too. It's so, like, under the belt humor. Like, you hear something and you're like, what?
That's hilarious.
So this is also on Kindle Unlimited, and I think you can listen to it on it's on the best-selling charts right now, and I think you can listen to it on you can listen to it as an Audible. So you know, we're supposed to start doing our Peloton. There you go.
Yeah, right. Everybody's been giving me instructors.
Oh, it's Cody Rigsby all the way.
Right?
Rigsby all the way. He's like, I don't want to hear any of that chicken fingers, chicken nuggets. You get your butt on the thing.
Oh yeah, Cody. That's what they keep telling me.
Oh yeah, he's a riot. He's so inappropriate. I love him so much. Did you see how big this book is? It's the size of my head.
Oh my gosh, that's huge. Now that's an antho, right?
Yeah. So I went to Book Bonanza, and Erin Mallon actually signed this for me. She's hilarious in real life too. She's really sarcastic and hilarious. I love her. And then we're going to meet up in Love in Vegas. Are you going to Love in Vegas?
No, I did not sign up for that one because at first I gave my notice to my job in May, so it was too late. And that I think it's October or early November or something like that. And I was just like, oh, there's too much going on at that point. So hopefully next year.
I'm going as a reader. And those are a lot of fun. I heard that one's really fun. Another author, I don't know if you probably read her because she's so good, is Helena Hunting.
Love Helena Hunting. I read the first book in this series.
Okay, I have not yet because
Pretty Little Lies, I think it's called.
I have not read it because I'm waiting for. I pre-ordered this one, and I'm gonna read it right before I get that one. I timed it right. I'm like, okay, so this day I'm gonna start this, and then I have coming on next month, and I'm really excited. She's also another author who's just very generous with her time and her encouragement, and just, you know, you meet an author just genuinely loves what they do and loves these books and loves this process, because if you don't love this process, you won't keep writing. There's no way, because it is such a, well, I mean, to be a publisher, to be a writer, to be a marketer, all those things are like 3 or 4 jobs in itself.
Right.
And to pour back and give back to the community and with real talk, real numbers, real advice, real encouragement is just, when you find one of those authors, you just, you're like, I just appreciate them so much. So yeah. I am ready for this one. I think it's going to be really good. Another one, I don't know if you read any books by Catherine Cowles.
I have not.
So this cover does not match the one on the screen because I got this at Book Bonanza. And what happened was, one of my roommates, authors will leave books around the place like Easter eggs. And I haven't found any, probably because I'm like, I'm not looking. I'm like see squirrels. Well, anyway, she came back. She goes, oh, I've never heard of this author. I found this book. And this is the 4th book that comes out next month. And I was like, I'll give you $40 cash for that right now. And she's like, okay. And I'm like, no, I need that book right now. Well, then my aunt came to visit, and she started binge reading all of her books. And she's like, I really wish I could read the fourth one. I'm like, I actually have the fourth one, but I actually have to send it back to that lady. She's like, just send it back when you're done. I'm like, thank you. So I'm like, you can't bend it. Like, you can't crack the spine. You have to keep
Right,
it
you can't crack the
super
spine.
perfect. And because it's not mine. And it's like so precious. And I'll be buying the other one because I need them all to match because I'm a weirdo. But that's the
Oh
other.
no, I understand that completely.
I mean, I love that cover too, but I have all the other covers in the other version, so now I have to have them all. I don't know. I have a problem. It's how I am.
It's a perfectly good, normal problem in the book world. I think we're all like that.
So, as far as Steam goes, because I know we like our steamy books, Sarah Ekavari Smith, do not sleep on her. She is so steamy and so funny too. And this is her newest book that comes out next month. And I'm going to have her on the show next month. But she also has a podcast too on how to write steam. Not that you need to learn that. I do, but not you.
It'll come. It just takes some time.
I know.
And it takes editor Jess yelling at us.
I wrote, okay, so my second book that comes out, I was so proud of myself. Well, I thought I was proud of myself. And I wrote all the scenes for this one.
And when does that one come out?
December 1st.
November.
December 1st.
December 1st. Okay.
So this one, I wrote all the steamy scenes. And it was hard, but I dug deep. And then my editor scratched them all. And I was like, do you know what went into that?
Really?
Part of them she took out. But I was like, I'm putting these in like my newsletter.
Yeah, you might as well use them for something.
Yeah.
That's funny.
I mean, maybe I got a little aggressive in those. I don't know. She was just like, yeah, these are coming out. And I'm like, but I worked hard.
I know, right?
I'm like, why did you take out my scenes? What else are some good ones that are coming out? I'm looking at my list here. Because it's a good month. Fall is a good month for books. I'm just saying. Get ready.
I agree.
Get ready. Buckle up. Clear your schedule. Tell people you're busy reading. If they ask you to do something, no, I'm reading.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Oh, you know what I did? I love Elena Armas. I had her on the show. And this is her second one that comes out, and I pre-ordered it. It comes on the 6th.
Ooh.
And that was one that I wasn't able to get an arc for. Maybe I didn't ask. I don't remember, but I didn't get to read it. And I always was like, man, I really want to read that. But then I was like, there's always so many books I have on for the show. And right. So I'm like, I'll just get it in September. I'll just buy it. And it's coming. It's fine. I'm really excited about that. One of my good friends, Christy K. Webster, she has a book coming out. She has not released her cover yet, which I'm really sad about. Christy, she's probably not watching this, but she showed me the cover in a text message and was like, don't show anyone. And I'm like, that is the coolest cover I've ever seen. It's the first time she's used a model. And
oh, wow.
It's like a teacher-student forbidden taboo romance book. you have to pre-order it. It's so good.
Funny.
So this is going to be one of the ones that people are like, oh my gosh, did you read that? That is so... And
that's funny.
Yeah, so she's really good. And a good friend of mine, too, also another author who just is incredibly generous with her encouragement, time, patience. She helped me order all my paperbacks the other day because I don't know what I'm doing. My formatter was like, so how did you know how to do that? I'm like, listen, Annie, I'm just winging life at this point.
Oh, yeah.
We're just coasting and hoping all the things get done.
Mm-hmm. I have so many things I need to order today. It's crazy. I need to order foils. I need to order arcs. I have a million.
Wait, what are foils? What are those?
So I have a special book box for the duet. I think the form closes as of September 1st. So the titles will be foiled instead of just plain normal. The titles will be foiled. Oh. And you get your choice of the traditional covers or the alternative covers. And then you get the swag. And, you mentioned the NSFW art.
How do I sign up for that? Where do you buy that?
Oh, I have a form on, it's in my link tree on Instagram. It's floating around in my readers group on Facebook.
Okay. I must have been under a rock. I'm going to.
Oh, yeah. Oh, thank you.
I'm doing
It's
it
got
because,
NSFW art in there. It's got a family tree in there. It's got some custom stickers, some custom swag. But the NSFW art, like you mentioned with Megan Quinn's,
yeah.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
I can't show you.
Oh,
I cannot show
cannot wait.
you.
I cannot wait. I know the ones she has, I'm like, we can't show that on here. They're so
No,
good.
we can't.
So, if we go to like Instagram, it'll be in your link tree.
Instagram, TikTok, yeah, it's in my link tree. Or my Facebook readers group, it's posted in there as well.
Okay. I'm terrible about getting on social media, but I'm going to look that up for sure.
Oh, thank you.
So, because I haven't ordered the physical yet for these, so I'm going to do that. And you can grab these. You can grab Bella's books on ebook, most of them on Audible, or paperback, whichever way you guys read these. On Amazon here, get them delivered today. So if you wanted to get started with Bella, because I know we have a lot of people hopping on the live here. And thanks for the follow, our Ruiz. This is her first series. So they are all standalones, like she said, for those of you that just joined in. And you can start with the all-in. You're going to clear your schedule. Productivity is going to be at an all-time low. And you'll start with these. And then you'll go on to your Restless series, which these are so good. Look at these covers, you guys. Oh, look at these covers. Look at these covers.
I love them.
I still think maybe
I love them all.
I still think maybe this one was my favorite of this series.
That was, yeah.
Yeah. That was just, I don't know. Sam is like, he's bad. He's bad in a good way.
Yummy.
He's so bad.
He's so yummy. Yes.
He's like, you want that dude on your side for sure.
Oh yeah. I had fun writing him. He was a good time.
Yeah, he sounded like a good time.
Oh no, did we freeze?
Nope.
Oh no.
Here, did you hear? Are you here? Uh-oh. We'll come back in. We'll get you in. So, if you guys want to get started with Bella's book, you can grab those and get going with that. Okay, just 1 second. I'll switch you back over. There we go.
I'm so sorry.
No, it might be my app here. So I'm using a new software, and sometimes it glitches. I don't know. But anyway, we're back in. I was just telling them where to get your books because we have a lot of people coming in and leaving. Some other books that I don't know if you've read that are coming up. I don't know if you like to read spooky books.
Not so much. I'm not a spooky book girl. I'm a steamy book girl. I'm a spicy book girl.
These are kind of steamy, witchy.
Ooh.
So
okay. So steamy and witchy I can handle.
Yes, steamy and witchy. I'm not a huge paranormal unless it's romance. Then I can get
right.
I can get behind.
Exactly.
Yes. So I have these coming up on the show, and I'm really excited. I also have, I'm doing a dual launch with Pippa Grant. I don't know if you read any of Pippa. I love Pippa.
Yeah, she's so good. Love Pippa.
And this was good. This was really spicy and good.
I love Pippa.
This is another one that I read in an entire day and a half, and my husband's like, "Are you going to get off the couch?" And I'm like, "Shh."
No, exactly.
I'm busy.
Don't ask me.
I'm working.
Exactly.
So
it's work research.
If anyone ever wondered whether I'm living my best life, the answer would be yes. Number one, I get to buy books and read them for a job. Mm-hmm. So when we get all the Amazon orders, I'm like, it's for work. It's for work. And then when I get, when I have, I have to lay on the couch and read books or sit by the pool, my husband's like, what are you doing? It's for work.
Exactly.
Here's some other goodies that I have interviewing this week, actually. Danielle Jackson and Chandra Bloomberg. I actually met these women in Chicago at a writers' conference, and that was a game-changing conference, by the way. But these women were just like so casual. They're like, yeah, I wrote a book. And I'm like, what book? And these amazing books. So I'm really excited. So I think we went through all of the books that are
wait, but I feel like we need your books now.
Oh,
my books. So, come on.
I know, I'm like terrible at talking.
We're amazingly excited about your books too. Like
I'm
we said
really
earlier, we started talking about this last September. I want to see cover next to cover.
Okay, hang on. I'm sending my son a message. Come get the vacuum. It's outside my door.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, so my series. Okay, so here's how this went down. About a year ago, I reached out to Belle. I don't even know how this happened. I think I just wanted you on the show because I liked your books. And I was like, what? I mean, it was a very vulnerable moment where I had to be like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote, actually, when we met, I hadn't written it.
Right.
I don't
You
think
were
I'd
just
written
starting.
it. Maybe I was just starting. I don't think I began. I know I plotted, because I plotted this series 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's been written in some ways, like bits and pieces, for 5 years. And I was like, I just know, sometimes you know that you know that you know that you need to do something.
Mm-hmm.
And I just knew, like, doors were shutting for me in my other job. Like, there were things I was doing that were just doors slamming. And I was like, that doesn't make sense. And in the back of my head, I would always tell my husband, well, if I ever could blah, 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 I would just write books. And he was like, well, then write books. I'm like, well, you can't just go write a book. And he's like, why can't you?
Right.
And I'm like, maybe I could. I don't know.
Right.
Anyway, the first book was written last September to October. And this was
Yes.
really my therapy. I wrote this because my brother died. And, past Erin would always eat all her sadness. And that's how I've lost 150 pounds. And I'm like, we can't go back. We can't go back to that. So I knew I needed to find a better coping skill than that. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to pour my emotions into writing. If I can have all these emotions, I can write these emotions somehow, some way, and maybe make an impact somewhere with things that I'm passionate about. And so I remember telling you what this book was about, and you were like, that is some heavy stuff. You remember that?
Right. It was very deep.
And you were like,
Yep.
this is a rom-com? And I'm like, it's not a rom-com. It really isn't. It
Right.
looks like, it does. It does have funny elements. And I wasn't sure if it was funny or not. So I had a development editor go back and highlight all the funny parts. And there are funny parts. She goes, I think this is funnier than you think. But with true real life, as you know right now deeply, deep stuff happens to us. And somehow we have to keep going. And we got to find the funny things. And my family's very morbid. Like, we went to my brother's, after my brother was killed 2 years ago almost. 2 years ago in October. We went to a funeral home where we had just buried our dad. And, we were making jokes the whole time. I'm sure the funeral guy was like, these are the most inappropriate people I've ever met. Because
we do the same thing. We
we're
deal
like,
with laughter.
fancy meeting you here again. And then we were looking around. I'm like, which one of us is next? Which one of us is going to get picked off next? And the guy's like, oh my God. But if you can't, that's how we get through, is we find the things, find the good, and maybe make jokes. And that's,
no!
Did you freeze again? Just come back. Just come back. But, and I'll buzz you in. But that's how we made jokes, was we pulled in, hey, no worries, I'm pull you back in. That's how we deal with life, right? Is we, make sure I get the right one pulled in. Okay, maybe not. I see you moving on one. There's 3 of you on a screen. It's kind of freaking me out.
Oh my goodness. I don't even want one of me on the screen, so,
No, that's okay. I think I did it right. I don't know why there's a black box, but whatever. So how we make jokes is, that's how we get through the hard times, is by, having that. And so that's what we did, is we looked for the good. And so I also knew I needed to write to heal. And so I looked through, I have like 7 series mapped out, like for the future, and they're not connected. And I was looking for what I thought would be the easiest, and I called them my crap books. I'm like, these are going to be my crap books where I just learned to write. But then as I wrote them, and that first draft was like, I mean, to be fair, that first draft I sent to Jessica had no punctuation.
Oh, Can't place a comma to save my life. Thank goodness for my copy editor.
There were no
Cannot
questions.
place a comma.
She was
Yeah.
probably like, what in the good God name is this? And thank
Mm-hmm.
God she was patient with this baby grasshopper because it was rough. And I remember her saying, this probably should never be a book. And I was like, that's okay. Tell me things like that because that's just going to drive me farther. And
Right.
then I went and rewrote it, like, watch me. And
Right.
she's like, you really don't need to rewrite this. And I'm like, nope, rewriting it. And I rewrote the whole thing quickly, like within a month. And then I was like, okay, I did it. But can I write another one? Can I do it again? And then I was like, I have to know if I can do this again because what if it was like a one-hit wonder, you know? So then I wrote the second one. And this is a road trip book, and I haven't released the cover yet, except for, I guess, now.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was trying to force that.
No, I hide it. If you watch it on Amazon, you get to see it. But I haven't showed it on social, but I guess there's a lot of people watching. But this is a road trip book, and they're a marriage of convenience, and they go on this epic road trip, and it's kind of a funny, I don't know, they do all these adventures. And then I am writing this one right now. And this one is one that my agent was like, no. She's like, that is way too deep. And I was like, and here we are. I'm writing it. And they're self-published, so it doesn't matter. But she paid the idea for this book. She was like, if she's watching this, she's probably like, don't tell people that. But she did not, like, I did change it up a little bit. I softened it. But no, I didn't change the dynamic of the story because this one has a very, very deep, angsty part. And I would almost say it's almost like your duet, as in there's no military, but it's deep, but funny. And it's got a dog in it. Of course it's going to be funny. It has a dog in it. I love, my daughter saw the stickers. I have the stickers over there, and she's like, can I get that dog sticker? I'm like, maybe. We'll see. But, yep, so those are my 3 books that are coming out in September, December, and March.
Awesome.
And
that's amazing.
I'm excited. It's going to be just, you know, I just hope people have patience with me. They're my first books.
They will. They absolutely will. They had patience with me.
I know.
I still, like, when somebody tells me they started with All In, part of me is like, oh, because, you know, I've come a long way since All In. But you know what? All In it's my second highest rated. Like, my Rise of the King, I think, has over, it's right around 1,000 reviews, I want to say, on Amazon. All In has like 886. You know what I mean? So people still read it and they still like it. But I am like, that was my very first book. I've gotten better since then. And everybody's like, don't say that. It's good. And I'm just like,
it is good. I will say this. Everyone make sure you follow Bella Matthews here on Amazon so you don't miss out on any of her upcoming releases. Amazon does a really good job of sending out an email letting you know, hey, Bella Matthews, you follow her. She has a book coming out. Because I know you have a massive release schedule for the next, probably, knowing you, few years mapped out. And I don't want you guys to miss any of her books that are coming out. So if you follow her, they don't spam you or anything or say, oh, you know, you have to have this or whatever. But that is really handy so that you don't miss out on any of Bella's books coming out. So what else
thank you.
What else do you have coming down the pipeline for you?
So Caged is going to release in December of this coming year. And then next year I'm going to flip back and forth between 2 different series. And I'm expecting to write 5 books or release 5 books next year as well, because I will have released 5 books this year. Like I said, Hannah McBride and I are discussing the possibility of doing a co-write. We haven't made it happen yet, but we've got it all mapped out. For a shared world, and there's tons, and I'm really excited about the anthology. The anthology should be a lot of fun. And honestly, I also have a Patreon, and I'm going to be doing I think probably weekly serialized book that I'm going to release in the Patreon weekly as I write it. So it might get tweaked slightly before I publish it, but they're going to get it all first. And that's a lot of fun. I've been having a lot of fun with the things that we've been doing over there because you can do a lot more on a Patreon than you can do on Facebook. I could never post the things on Facebook that I can post on the Patreon.
Oh, I love that so much. I'm gonna look that up. I just have like head down writing all the time. I never look at social media as much, and now I'm like, now I'm missing all kinds of things. So that's a good question. Our next question is, where can everybody plug in to follow you other than following on Amazon? Oh, we're just adding screens here. Hang on.
Yes.
We're adding screens here. Oh, now we're black in the middle. That's funny. Hey, we fixed it now.
It's got to be my Wi-Fi. My Wi-Fi has been funny now for
That's
weeks,
okay.
so I'm so sorry for that.
No worries.
But
Hey, we're just rolling.
I know, right? Well, we're rolling with it.
Yep.
But anyway, you can do a lot more on a Patreon than you can share in some place like Facebook.
Yeah.
I could never share the shorts or the bonus content the way that I'm able to there, because I write a lot of spice. And I also really enjoy cursing. So, Facebook censors that stuff.
I loved your steamy scenes in your duet.
Thank you.
I was like,
It was a lot of fun. I feel like I definitely went up a notch with this one.
Yeah, you did. I was like, wow. So I was sitting there reading it. My daughter, she's 7. She reads really well. She was behind me. I was like, no. No, ma'am. No, absolutely not. Not reading this. And definitely AirPods when you are listening to the Audible of these, which I was listening to. I was listening to the stopover in my bathroom getting ready today. My husband walked in. He's like, "What are you listening to?" I'm like, research.
Right, 1,000%.
And then his eyes are like, okay.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
So your steamy scenes are top notch. I mean, they're just so good. But then I feel like you add in the funny, and also I love the family elements of these. You just follow all these. I mean, there are rabbits. They're breeding.
Oh,
there are so many babies happening in these books that I'm like, who else?
There will be a whole series of Next Generation eventually. Not yet. Yeah.
Well, you know who else does that really well is Kristen Proby.
Yes. Yes, I've read a lot of books.
Yeah, I've had her on the show a few times. I met her at Book Bonanza. Fantastic author and lady. She did this whole like map thing and mapped out the next kids, and she's just really wonderful too. Yeah. Well, awesome. Well, I'll let you get back to writing because the days are ticking down where you're going to take a 2-week nap, and then we got 5 books to write next year.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, thank you so much for joining me on this live today. Amazon, be sure to grab her duet and pre-order the next one. You can grab Changing the Game now and then go ahead and pre-order Ending the Game. That way it shows up on your Kindle. Yay! It shows up on your Kindle the next day or delivered to your door the day of release, which is super nice. And follow Bella Matthews on Instagram, TikTok. She's really great on TikTok too. She makes fantastic content. And you're going to love her on there as well. Thank you so much for joining me again.
Thank you so much for having me, Erin. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Stand by one moment. Amazon, be sure to grab that, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.